Today we are going to paint a vegetable garden. I'm going to start off with a drawing on a piece of watercolor paper. I'm beginning with a horizontal line that is not exactly in the middle of my paper, but a little bit lower than the center. And I'm just going to use my pencil to make my line from one side to the other. Now this is going to be a ground, so it doesn't have to be perfectly straight. All right, next I want to decide what I'm going to grow in my garden. So I'm going to mark off kind of where I want my food to be. I think I'm going to use 5 different things. So I'm going to make 5 little marks on my line as to where I want my food to be planted. I started in the middle and then added 2 on each side. And in the center, I think I'm going to go with a carrot. So I'm going to go ahead and make a carrot. Notice that I'm really trying to make it nice and large to use up the space on my paper. On this side, maybe I'll do something round. This could be a radish or maybe an onion, something like that. On this side, I want something round as well, so I'll do another one that's kind of shaped like a radish or onion, something that really takes up the space. For these ones in between, I'm going to have the plants that grow above the ground. So the carrot, the radish, the onion, they all grow underground. And so in between them, I'm just going to put some roots so that I can make something growing above ground. Like maybe this plant right here will have tomatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and start by making some circles that are floating in the air that will be tomatoes for a tomato plant. And I can just put maybe 2 here that are floating up here. And then maybe this one over here is going to be cucumber or zucchini or something else that grows. You could do beans, whatever you like to add in your garden. And then once I have the produce, I'm going to go ahead and make the stem that is going to attach to it so that they don't look like they're just floating in midair. So I'll go ahead and add some lines like this to kind of spread out behind and around my tomato plant to make it look like my tomatoes are actually growing on a plant and aren't just floating in midair. I can kind of connect those to that. And I'll do the same thing up here where I'll add some leaves behind my tomato so it looks like it's on the stem. And then I'll do the same thing to this cucumber or zucchini or whatever you would like to make of this plant. I'll make kind of a stem that's holding on to it so that it looks like it's actually growing here on this stem. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of add a couple stems, add a couple leaves, make it look like it's a nice, healthy plant growing. I'm going to connect my cucumber to the plant with a little branch here, added some lines on it, a couple swirls maybe, and now I've got an above ground plant. Now I also need to add some leaves on the top of my food that's growing underground. So I think this is going to be a radish, and I'll go ahead and add some leaves to make it look like the part that's growing above ground. And then my carrot in the center here. Actually, I'll go do this. I think this is going to be an onion, so I'm going to go ahead and make long skinny leaves. And then the carrot also needs some leaves as well. So I'll just kind of throw some of those on there above my carrot. And again, your garden can be different than mine. You can have different foods. Potatoes grow underground and they have some nice fat leaves. So feel free to look up some different pictures or some different foods that you could include in your garden. At this point, I am done with my drawing. I'm going to get some wax paper ready because I'm going to use wax paper. It should fit about the bottom half of my watercolor paper. And what I'm going to do is get the bottom half of my paper wet with just plain water. And then I'm going to add brown for the soil. So I'm getting the whole paper wet with a little bit of water. I'm using 90 pounds, so it will curl a little bit. That's okay. If it really bothers you, you can tape your paper down, but I'm not worried too much about it curling. I can always flatten it out later. And I'm just using watercolor paint, and I'm going to try to get a good amount of color. So my brown's really light right now, so I really want to try to get more color on my brown with my watercolor to kind of fill in this area. I'm going to keep dipping it into my brown paint, keep adding it in my ground here. I'm going right on top of my drawing, and that's totally fine. And just really trying to fill up my area here with the paint. I'm trying to stay under the line in the middle, and because there's the watercolor paper is dry, then it should be fine just staying in that section. And then I'm going to take this wax paper and just press it down on my watercolor. While that is sitting there, I'm going to make some of the top of my picture wet. I am trying to stay a little bit away from my ground line. If I touch that ground line with water, then it's going to get mixed with my sky. So I'm trying to leave just a little bit of space between the two so that they don't intermingle. And I'm just going to fill up the rest of my picture here with blue. You could also do green. Maybe there's like more growth and stuff behind, so that would be a color that would work well for the rest of the painting. But I'm just going to go ahead and fill mine with blue, and then I'm going to put this aside and let it dry. All right, I have let my paper dry. I can remove the wax paper, and it leaves this really cool texture on my ground. And now I'm switching to tempera paint, and I went ahead and sped this up so you can kind of get the idea. But I'm using tempera paint, which is a little bit thicker, or gouache is another one, and I'm filling in all of the different veggies in my garden. So I started with the carrot in the middle. I'm going to go ahead and do my tomatoes, and I'm just going to continue with the different colors filling in my food. And it doesn't really matter with the tempera paint what you paint first. I'm just kind of jumping around and doing things by color. So I'm starting with kind of the warm colors, and then I will continue to fill mine in. This is kind of a magenta color because this is a radish. And I might even adjust my drawing a little bit. So if you need to kind of adjust your drawing when you paint, that's okay too. And then I think I'm going to use white over here for my onion, and I'll probably have to outline it later so that it can really show up on my ground, because right now it's kind of just running into the rest of my ground. It's kind of light. I'm also going to do my cucumber up here with some green. And then of course fill in all of the different leaves. And I'm trying to maybe use a variety of greens so that they don't all look like they're the same. So maybe some of my greens will have a little bit more blue, like this one. It's kind of more of a blue green. It's a little bit darker. And then I could use a lighter green for some of them. So maybe see if you can vary the different green colors. It'll just make for a more colorful picture. So I'm going to continue adding these different greens on each of my plants to kind of fill in my garden and make it come to life. I'm also going to use some brown to draw in the roots of my plants. You can see I'm using a round brush, and I'm really just trying to use the tip of my brush to get these nice roots drawn in. And then I also want to go ahead and make a line on the ground to separate the ground from the sky with my brown. And then I think I want to outline my onion too, because it's still so see-through. So I'm just going to use my brown around my onion and on the little roots kind of going down from the onion as well. And there you have it, a nice veggie garden. I'm adding little highlights as a last minute pop for the end. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making a veggie garden with me.